only 1% of reported rapes lead to a conviction in England and Wales. And that shocking figure has not changed since 2020.
And that comes as prisons are now so overcrowded, judges have been told to avoid jailing convicted rapists from next week. Cherie Blair, KC, is a leading barrister, of course, and an ambassador for the women's charity Refuge, and says the justice system is woefully failing rape victims. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. Very good to have you in the studio this morning.
Well, thank you for taking an interest in this topic.
Do you know what? We talk about it regularly on this programme, and it is utterly shocking. And the latest shocking news is this advice to judges that our prisons are now so full that they need to consider, when they've got a convicted rapist in front of them, delaying imprisonment.
So that's about the fact that, people get on bail because we assume someone's innocent until proven guilty. So if you have someone who's been on bail and is then convicted of rape, then normally you would send that person to prison pending sentence. And that sentences can take 4, 6, perhaps even more weeks. But because the prisons are so overcrowded, the senior presiding judge has said, don't send those convicted rapists, or indeed other convicted criminals, into prison until you actually have done the sentencing. So that means, as one of the judges said, you could have someone who's been convicted of rape walking around on the same streets as the victim.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's just chilling. Chilling.
And it's just wrong. It's just plain wrong.
It's a denial
it
of
just flies in the
justice.
face of common sense and decency.
It does, but that's because our prisons are overcrowded, our court system is underfunded. This is the police don't have enough resources, the prosecution service doesn't have resources. This is a result of 13 years of austerity.
All right. Well, that's a problem to do directly with prison overcrowding. Let's cut to this dreadful statistic. Why is rape? Why does it have the lowest conviction rate of any crime in this country? 1% of people who've been accused get convicted.
1.9% of people of complaints about rape end up ending in a conviction.
Why so low?
There's a number of reasons for that. First of all, it's the delay. Even when the police take up the matter, and we do now have police who are trained with that, and we have rape specialists within that, if people are waiting from over 2 years...
You mean the woman?
The women are waiting. Well, 9% of rape victims are men, but this is mainly about women. Then it's very difficult for them to move on. They're worried about what they may be asked about in court. There's victim shaming. One of the interesting things is that there are ways of preventing that, and there are these specialists called independent sexual violence advisors and domestic violence advisors, and they help by supporting the victim on their journey. And there is an opportunity now, there's a victims bill going through Parliament, which, if it really did what it said on the tin, which was support victims, one would like to see more resources put into these kind of specialists who can actually support a victim, in this case a woman, on the journey, so that they don't feel despair, so they understand that they can be protected to an extent in court. But without resources, the fact is that service, great when it works, is just not available to many, many victims across the country.
That suggests that one of the reasons there's a low conviction rate is because the victims themselves lose confidence in the process and drop out. Is that part of the issue?
Certainly part of it. But I think there's an underlying issue here, which is about, when we're talking about intimate relationships between men and women, and we're talking about the criminal system where someone is innocent until proven guilty, it ends up with her word against his word. And that makes it very difficult because... then it's a question of how we feel about women and how the judge, the jury, the police look at a woman who has been, who makes a rape allegation, and about the question, has she asked for it?
What proportion of rapes are committed by someone that the victim knows and might be in a relationship with?
Well, it depends what you mean by relationship. If you're talking about a long-term relationship, a survey that was just done a couple of years ago showed that 25% of men think that if you're in a relationship, then you can't actually rape that person, which reflects an older
trope,
which was that if you were married, it wasn't until 1991 that a woman could bring a rape charge against her husband. And that goes back to the early 18th century when the common law said that because you have consented to be married, then you have consented unconditionally to having sexual relations with your husband. And that feeling is reflected in that 25%. You've got a long-term relationship, so that means you've agreed to do whatever I want.
When these cases finally do get to Crown Court, what's the conviction rate like then?
Well, the conviction rate in Crown Court isn't bad, and actually it's not. It's a bit lower than the average, but it's around 69%. So I think women need to understand that actually, if they do get to court, there are ways of protecting them. They can give evidence behind a screen. There are limits on how much they can be asked about their past experiences. But on the other hand, we also know that their mobile phone records are gone through and, all sorts of details are brought in, and women feel anxious about that. But actually, it's not that 1% of people who actually go to trial are convicted. It's that the fact that so many cases never get to trial.
Quite briefly, Cherie, because we're almost out of time, but I mean, it used to be the case, there's no question about this, 20-odd years ago or more, maybe more recently than that, that the attitude of the police, the attitude of the Crown Prosecution Service was not what it should be in terms of allegations of rape. Has that changed?
There has been a great deal of effort put in to exactly that, making sure that people are aware. But, it's about all of us being aware. I mean, there's this other assumption, isn't it, that somehow women are these temptresses for men and that men can't control themselves. I mean, most men absolutely understand that if a woman says, no, I don't want to do that, that they should respect that. But the problem is, many people have the attitude that somehow men aren't able to control themselves. That, as a mother of 3 sons, is not true. And we need to do more to ensure that our young men, and indeed all men, understand that they can control themselves, and that when a woman says, no, or I want to do this but not that, that actually they need to respect that.
Absolutely.
Cherie Blair, thank you so much. It's such an important message and, really important, as you say, to keep the subject being talked about. Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing it up again.
No,
thank you. If you are affected by that issue, or indeed any of the issues that we discuss in the programme, you can find advice and support at itv.com/helplines.